The Guild Wars 2 raiding scene has a big problem. Today we want to debate this topic and I want to give you my take on it, and of course I also want to know your take in the comments, but I also want to give some suggestions, maybe possible solutions, something like that. Grab a cup of tea and enjoy this podcast style video. As always, special shout out to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch and Patreon that help me keep the lights on. And now let's jump straight into the hot topic. As always, big disclaimer here, this is my opinion on the matter, but I try to be as objective and rational as possible and give you my opinion while also mentioning facts about the situation. So let's start about the facts of what raiding is. We currently have 8 raid wings at release of this video, and in my opinion it's quite unlikely that we get any more, because it really is like raiding. There is a community behind it in Guild Wars 2, but one developer once said a while ago that the raiding scene is smaller than the PvP scene. And PvP is, in my opinion, already feeling quite dead. And if you say the overall active players in raiding are less than in PvP, that's a bad sign by itself. So that's let's say a biased factual statement that we have from a developer like a year ago or something like that. And I think the Raid Wing 8, especially because of the challenge and difficulty that this Raid Wing had at its release, I think is not really helping in that sense. But what I also think is the big problem here, and that's not about raid wings and releasing and stuff, is like the existing raid wings. If you look at the LFG, if you look at how active the player base are, it's like it feeling that there is only something going on the Mondays typically. The other days it's like feeling too small of how many people are playing there, and you can't really fill a lot of those packing squads typically. What is the problem here? The problem is that a lot of tryhards really, or somewhat active players that play raids, want to be in a static. It's like really they want to bubble off with other experienced players. They don't want to pack, because in packing you could expect some bad apples that are not really knowing what they're doing and still joining the group. And that means that it's really like the whole raiding community consists of 2 parts of players. They are players that know what they are doing and typically are in a raid static and are continuously playing raids with their static group. So 10 people that always on the same time running the same raids, knowing what they are doing. And then you have the people that are just playing raids on and off and are using the LFG for that, for example. And those are like on and off players, typically not as tryhard as the static players. And those packing players typically also encounter other packing players that are not as good as them and whatever. And then the packing runs can go really chaotic and not always lead to the win. So I think there is a big problem with players being in statics all the time and not interacting with the packing scene, and a healthy packing scene is really necessary in my opinion to keep the game mode alive, because that's very easy for people to get into, whereas a static is way harder to find. So there is a big split. I'm really talking about big split between the people that are knowing what they are doing, and they are completely split off from all the other players because they are playing with only other players that are also knowing what they are doing. So the only thing to get from, let's say, the open world casual player into this tryhard static raiding player is by joining a raid Discord. Yes, there are some, and this is really cool that you have trade trainings going on, but if you can't do that, if you want to stay only in the game, the LFG is not helping you at all. It's really insane. There are KP requirements in LFG groups nowadays that a new player will never meet at all. So there is this big split between experienced players and new players, and you can't really overcome it without going into a third-party tool outside of Guild Wars 2. There are some, don't get me wrong here. I like those people that are really engaging with training and helping new players getting into raids, but it really feels like the effort that you need to put into there is not worth for a lot of players. Typically players want to just LFG, want to get into the raid and learn something there or complete the boss there. And this is, in my opinion, the big issue, that the LFG feels very either high KP or just very KP means, by the way, Killproof, or just very bad groups in general, or no groups at all. So it's really like either you have a crazy good static that you do it with and get the raid clears consistently, or you are packing and really throwing the dice every time you go into a pack group. So this is a big issue, that the LFG is not really helping getting the raiding scene better, more alive. By the way, if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. And why is that? It's also mostly because the KP requirements and the experience that you get in LFG is like completely insane at this point. People are asking for 250 KP of a specific boss to actually clear Veil Guardian or something. That's just unnecessary and insane. And the KP are also not really a good system to value how much experience a player has. You could have a player that killed Veil Guardian once and knows what they are doing, and you have a player that killed like Veil Guardian 30 times and still can't tank it, for example. So it's like, okay, it's really hard to evaluate experience in Guild Wars 2 raiding, and this is a big problem, and this is a topic for a whole other video, so keep that in mind. I want to go into detail here, but I think this is a big problem why the raiding scene is very, very small, and we have big problems with pucking in LFG. So is raiding dead now? Would I say that raiding is not something that you should get into? No, not at all. I think it's really easy to get into raids if you join a raid Discord, if you want to have some investment going. I think raiding is really fun. It's one of the best things to do in PvE in Guild Wars 2. It's really, really cool. They have really cool bosses. It's really fun to do. It's really nice to get the achievements and all the loot that you get from it. It feels really good. So I think it's very worthwhile to get into. But would I say that raiding is like the most active thing to do? No. I think raiding, especially with the upcoming expansion and stuff, I personally think raiding is not really likely to be revived anytime soon. I think raiding is a scene that is still active, you can get into, but it's not like absolutely big and you find crazy amounts of players playing it every day. So I personally think raiding is fun to get into, but I think it's not the most likely thing to be updated in the future. So what are my solutions regarding this? I think increasing the rewards in general would help. I'm not joking. I think just increasing the incentives for players to get into raiding and repeat raiding and even go into LFGs to find new groups to get more rewards, I think that would actually help. So increasing the gold, maybe giving some more unique stuff, maybe more unique infusions or whatever from drops, so that you have some kind of incentive to do the bosses every week because you want to get the big drop or whatever. I think that's cool. But in general, I think maybe just making them easier, some raid wings, so that you would, for example, get wing 8 maybe a bit easier, maybe make some kind of adjustments that embolden this more often into some raid wings or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. There are some really nice ways to actually buff it and to make it more interesting for newer players. But what I think is a really good improvement, or would be a really good improvement, is giving raid wings a weekly reward, but also giving one day a week, one raid wing, a specific reward on top. So that means that you can do, for example, Veil Guardian once a week, but when it's the day of the Veil Guardian or the wing 1, for example, you can also get another additional gold or whatever, another additional reward on top of it for clearing it this day again. So that would help to actually engage in the LFG again. So if you have a static that does a full CM raid clear at Monday, and then there is on, but I don't know, Tuesday there is a wing 2 additional day where you get additional loot from clearing on Tuesday the wing 2, you can go back into LFG, do this raid again, and you have, so to say, this every single day. So another raid wing coming up every single day that gives additional rewards for this day, and that would actually keep the people interested. Even the tryhards that already did the full clear on Monday, they will come back and maybe LFG and puck there. That's in my opinion a way to actually revive the system of LFG pucking, because then even the tryhards interact with it again and we have easier time for everyone. Because there are more people looking for groups and it's more interesting, you get more rewards. And I think that would solve at least a little bit the LFG pucking issue. I'm scared that ArenaNet doesn't really like to buff the rewards of those, but I think that would be a really good way of doing it. So let me know your takes on this, let me know your comment if you have any cool suggestions, any solutions to solve this issue. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Again, special shout out to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch and Patreon that help me keep the lights on. Thanks a lot for watching and I hope to see you all in the next video.